Pretty loud.
Here we are, live.
We are live. Welcome, everybody.
Okay. Welcome. Welcome, everybody. We are very excited for this session that we have with you today. We have an exciting announcement that came out earlier this week, and I'm joined here in studio today with Melody and Ryan. Do some introductions in a moment. But what we're announcing here and giving a little more detail is on the CrowdStrike and Vicarius partnership. So we announced earlier this week, you might have seen the press release come out, that CrowdStrike has brought on Vicarius to its marketplace. So we're officially on the marketplace now. And what's exciting about this is it brings the detection elements of CrowdStrike through Falcon exposure management, and it combines that with Vicarius advanced remediation for a detection and protection second to none solution. So join me today is Ryan. Ryan, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hey, everybody. Super excited to be here and covering a little, some details about this partnership with you today.
Thanks. And Melody from CrowdStrike.
Hi, great to meet everyone or see everyone. I'm up here from CrowdStrike. I manage the third-party relationships for the CrowdStrike marketplace.
Great. Thank you. And I'm Tanya, and I run North America. So we will, we're going to go through here, share this with you. We'll lead off with Melody. She's going to go through a little bit about the exposure management landscape, the challenges. We'll introduce Vicarius more formally, and then give you a look and feel of the solution through a demo, and then open up for some Q&A. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. Melody, over to you.
Hi, hi again. In case you're not familiar with the CrowdStrike marketplace, it is a vetted ecosystem of security solutions that integrate directly with our Falcon platform. What does the marketplace deliver? Seamless integrations of trusted partner tools, enhanced platform capabilities, simplified vendor management, and quick implementation and ROI. Take our partnership with Vicarius, for example. While CrowdStrike provides industry-leading exposure management and prioritization, Vicarius complements this with advanced remediation capabilities. This combination delivers more value than either solution could provide independently. The marketplace helps organizations deploy enterprise-grade security without the complexity of managing multiple vendors. To understand why these integrated solutions are so critical, let's look at the fundamental challenges that organizations face today. So let me ask you something. Are you caught in the endless cycle of scan, assess, patch, repeat? Here's the reality. You do not have a vulnerability problem. You have an adversary problem. Vulnerabilities are just tools in an attacker's arsenal. Understanding your adversaries helps you deploy effective defense. Ask yourself, which critical systems are they targeting? What's your exposure to active threats? What are their favorite ways in? Once you understand your adversaries, you can focus on the vulnerabilities they're actually exploiting, prioritize patches that matter most, and deploy defenses where they will have the greatest impact. Stop playing catch up with every vulnerability. Start defending against the real threats targeting your organization. That's how you move from reactive to proactive security. But here's the challenges many organizations face in doing this. Next slide. Picture your security team today. They're managing dozens of security tools, drowning in alerts, and struggling to understand their true risk exposure with limited resources. Every time they switch between tools to assess threats and risks, they're creating blind spots that attackers love to exploit. And what's a typical response to new security risks? Add another tool. But here's the reality. These point products are often just features masquerading as solutions. They promise risk management, but deliver complexity. They identify exposures, but can't provide real-time protection. While your team struggles to piece together the risk landscape from fragmented tools, attackers are exploiting these exact gaps to breach organizations. While these gaps between security tools create significant challenges, the problem is further compounded by the unprecedented complexity of modern IT environments. Remember when security teams had full visibility of their IT assets? Those days are long gone. Digital transformation is scattered assets, data, and users across cloud, offices, and homes. Your attack surface isn't just larger, it's way more dynamic. Cloud workloads spin up and down, and assets appear and vanish daily. Add AI and large language models to the mix, and you're facing new risks like prompt injection and model manipulation. This isn't just about more assets to protect, it's about fundamentally rethinking security in a world where boundaries are disappearing and technology is constantly evolving. So how do we address these challenges of growing IT complexity and an ever-expanding attack surface? The answer lies in a comprehensive, continuous approach to exposure management. Next slide. So let's talk about how to actually reduce risk through a continuous security lifecycle. It starts with discovery because you cannot protect what you can't see. Falcon Exposure Management gives you complete attack surface visibility, identifying and monitoring all assets from both inside and out. Then we assess, looking at both exposure and criticality. Because an exposed asset isn't always critical, and a critical asset isn't always exposed. Falcon Exposure Management helps you understand this crucial intersection, providing context that matters. Next is prioritization. Our secret weapon, where CrowdStrike really stands apart. We combine threat intelligence with AI to cut through the noise. And teams see up to 95% fewer security alerts focused on what matters. Finally, remediation. This is where we partnered with Vicarius. Their VRX solution adds automated patching, custom scripting, and patchless protection, completing the entire security lifecycle. This is the power of Falcon Exposure Management enhanced by Vicarius, a complete approach that eliminates the need for multiple point products. You get an efficient, effective security program focused on what matters, stopping adversaries before they can act. And with that, I will pass it over to Tanya and Vicarius.
Thanks, Melody. That is, we have a landscape, and I'll talk about that, but that is a landscape that is just scary, to be honest, with so much out there and so much at risk. So enter Vicarius. A little bit about us. I'll just introduce us quickly here. Company founded in 2016. We have been, actively selling solution evolution, and then we've been actively product on the market selling since about 2020. We've grown rapidly in that time, up to 600 customers, over 600 worldwide across 60 countries, and we're protecting over 2 million assets. We have offices. We're global across all regions, but we have our offices in New York and in Tel Aviv. So next slide. The next thing I'll share is, Melody did a really nice job of sharing this landscape, how the landscape is getting so complex, difficult to prioritize, difficult to assess. The CVEs grew 40% last year compared to 2023 to 2024. And that's the detection side alone. The remediation side of this is not easy. And it is a pervasive problem. Every client we speak to when we ask them what they're doing with their remediation today and how they're remediating vulnerabilities, no one's really 100% happy with what they're doing. And the reason is a lot of it is manual. Much of what they're doing is manual, and much of what they're doing is not covering their entire landscape, which, next slide, I'll speak to here in a moment. Patching is the traditional way of dealing with the attack surface, of dealing with the vulnerabilities that are out there. Describing a scenario where a CVE is identified, a CVE is published. The IT team or the security team will identify that, heads over to the IT team. The IT team then researches it, looks at all the various patches that might be available if, in fact, the patch is out, and then has to deploy that patch and hope that it is the right patch, and then you don't have to revert because there could be an opportunity that you couldn't revert. So and you don't want to create any undue issues in the systems. So you'll see a little bit of this in Ryan's demo, but the reality is that the patching in and of itself isn't enough, right? Because of the attack surface, patching is not enough. There are many CVEs that actually don't even have patches, especially if you're dealing with third-party applications. So patching is not enough there. The data came out, I think it was 2024, that in 2023, there was not even 50% of vulnerabilities, critical vulnerabilities that were patched. So half left open for exploit, right? So what do you do in that case? The other challenge is the time to patch, because the patch could come, but then it's delayed. So you get the point that relying exclusively on patching as a way to remediate, and on top of it, exacerbated by the fact that you do it manually, is just not is just not feasible, right, in the long run, and especially with how this landscape is growing so rapidly. Slide. So what does Vicarius do that creates this second to none, remediation ability? There's 3 different ways is the approach. Starting on the far right, you see patchless protection. This was actually how the company was founded. It was founded on the basis of a solution called XProtect. And this is what you do if there is no patch that's available. So I'll start with when there is a patch, right? So number 1, we offer patching across the board, right, for everything, and actually have the largest library of patching of applications out there that we can monitor and have patches for. So I think it's around 10,000 plus all the OSs. Now that's for patching, and we can do this in an automated way. The second would be scripting. What if there's a configuration? What if there is, registry change? There could be a lot of reasons, and Ryan's going to go through this in the demo to show you why would be the reasons and why you would be deploying a script. But we also have a library of scripts that are available. And what's kind of cool is these come from both our own organization, where we are deploying these scripts, but they also come from our community. And so they can build their own scripts, which are vetted by our company, and that we will publish them for broader use. So that's the scripting piece. And lastly, like I mentioned, the foundation of this company, Patches Protection, is when there is no patch, how do you still mitigate the risk, right? And patchless protection is like putting a layer of code on top of the software code that just plants a protective layer, if you will. So if there is an exploit, it can be mitigated. So that at least helps reduce the risk on multiple levels. So, thank you. So this is a look and feel. You're going to see it live, a look and feel of the VRX solution. And we're looking forward and anxious to get to the demo. So with that, I'll pass it over to you, Ryan.
Yeah, thanks, Tanya, and thanks, Melody. So again, really excited to be showcasing this a little bit here today with a bit of a live demo. I am going to be focusing the demo on just the Vicarius piece of this, but I want to kind of set the stage and show a little bit of context of how this partnership is kind of built out. So as we talked about, CrowdStrike is going to be kind of the source of truth for a lot of the vulnerability detection, finding new threats in your environment. We'll then be doing that continuously as the new threats are being disclosed and changes are occurring in the environment. That's going to be sending that data out to Vicarius, where we're going to be acting on it and remediating some of those vulnerabilities. We'll then send that back to CrowdStrike for the verification and seeing that vulnerability has been remediated. Quite a few benefits to this model. We have the continuous vulnerability discovery. There's also some cross-platform validation happening between those two. Sometimes a vulnerability might appear present from one scan tool versus another. So being able to cross-check that will increase the confidence that that vulnerability is in fact present on the device and implemented in a way which is exploitable. We talked about how these numbers are going up and challenges are becoming insurmountable for defenders. So making sure that we're focusing our efforts where it matters most is certainly paramount. Acting on the vulnerability detections through VRX, again, that's really one of the kind of key pieces of this integration and why we're really excited to be in the CrowdStrike marketplace today. So with that, I'm going to hop on over to the Vicarius dashboard and just show a really quick demo on just some of the remediation capabilities. Again, bear in mind, I'm not showing the CrowdStrike side of this, so it'll look and feel a little bit different, with that in mind. But I do want to show some of the remediation capabilities just so we can, set the stage there. So there's a couple ways that we can build out remediations. One of my favorite ways to do that is through automation policies. And this is going to allow us to build this into a frequency and build some dynamic rules that allow us to adhere to different challenges that maybe a specific industry is facing, or maybe even more granular than that within the organization. Maybe a specific group of servers has a certain maintenance window and another group has a different maintenance window or has a different intended behavior that we have to adhere to. So doing that through policies is going to allow us to achieve those things. And it's also going to mean that we can achieve some of these remediations with far fewer resources being dedicated to it, doing this far less manually. We can also do these in a more ad hoc fashion as well. So if there's a one-off patch that's critical or a one-off remediation that's really critical that it gets deployed immediately, we can also do that as well. But the automations allow us to build this into a more repeatable format. So I'm just going to select a handful of applications. One thing that's really, I think a huge advantage to VRX is our library. We support over 10,000 applications natively for patching. Our remediations go beyond patching. It's a bit ironic. I'm starting with patching. Tanya just said patching alone is not enough. So we're going to get into some other things in a moment. So here I've got a handful of applications selected. I'm going to go ahead and select next. I'll then choose the severity that I'd like to target. Again, this may be different for different areas of your organization. So bear in mind things like your risk tolerances and other factors. If you do need a degree of granularity, or if you see something in Falcon exposure management that is indicating a specific patch needs to be applied, we can have that level of granularity as well. It's a bit more of a surgical approach. This allows for alignment with change management processes and things like that, whereas the severity is a little bit more scalable. Reboots are always a point of contention. How do we handle those? When we're deploying our patches, we want to balance the security side of things with minimizing operational disturbances. That's really the main goal here. So we can build in a reboot procedure if the patch requires it. But again, we only want to perform that if there's a need for downtime. Otherwise, we want to minimize any sort of disturbances and do that as silently as possible, which is our default behavior. We can build in this auto reboot, again, just ensuring that that patch is going to be not only installed, but fully applied so the application is no longer vulnerable. In this case, let's pretend we're targeting some user workstations with these patches here, and we are going to give them a couple hours to postpone that so they can save any work that they may have to finish up before they can safely perform that reboot. Another thing that's really great about the automations and the remediation that we have in general is that we can build these as a multi-stage policy. This is going to allow us to build in not only our app updates, but our OS updates within the same maintenance window and targeting the same group of assets. So here, I'm just going to select our Windows 10 and 11. Again, we're using this example as kind of a workstation model here. Again, we'll select our severity, pretty much going to be a rinse and repeat from what we saw on the previous view at this point. So again, we'll choose our reboot behavior, giving the user a few hours to postpone. We can even determine the frequency at which they're reminded of those snooze notifications so that we're allowing them to finish that work without being too annoyed with those reboot reminders. Moving on to another remediation, this is something that we've seen an uptick of, is configuration-based vulnerabilities. Some vulnerabilities are without a patch from the vendor. I think everyone remembers Log4j and how difficult that was to tackle. There are many other examples. One that I get asked about time and time again is WinVerify Trust. That is something that affects many versions of Windows, but there's no actual patch for. So let me just try a different search here. There we go. This is something that we have the capability to remediate within the platform. We'll apply a registry change to that, which will mitigate the vulnerability, but bypass the fact that there is not a formal patch from Microsoft, giving us far more scope beyond just that patching. So again, tying back to the point of patching alone is not sufficient. With the scripting, the library, as you can see, is pretty extensive. This grows all the time through some of the sources that Tanya mentioned, our internal threat research team, the insights from Falcon as well, feeding into this. So these are things that we can perform these remediations, again, outside of the availability of a patch. Tying out the automation, the last couple stages will just be to choose the group of assets that you'd like to target. I'm going to go ahead and choose the Windows Workstation group I have here. And then finally, we'll need to determine when this is going to be deployed. Is this something we'd like to do immediately? Again, in the case of perhaps a critical patch that needs to be installed immediately, maybe a new set of devices that are joining the network and we want to ensure that they have the latest patches. Or maybe this is more of a recurring sort of model where we'd like to have this be deployed weekly or even on a custom schedule, which allows it to be further aligned with the maintenance schedules that exist within the organization. Finally, I just want to briefly cover our patchless protection, or X-Protect. As Tanya mentioned, that's how Vicarius was actually started, one of the first technologies in the platform, and something that I think complements Falcon quite well. The main focus of this is on applications which are end of support or can't be patched, and they don't have a script available or some sort of workaround from the vendor. This allows us to have coverage of those cases where there's a higher than acceptable or tolerable risk, but the application cannot be removed due to the production that it's giving the organization. There's a valid business case for it, but again, the security team is not willing to tolerate that risk. Falcon, of course, does a great job of protecting the operating system, observing, different system calls and things like that are occurring. This is something, again, that complements that, layered on top, specifically for the applications, whereas Falcon is installed at the host or operating system level. As you can see, we've got a couple different modes to this. We've got the monitor and protect mode are the two that I just going to tie out the demo here and focus on. The monitor mode is just going to allow us to observe those system calls sent to this application, and you'd be alerted if any were deemed to be malicious. The protect mode just takes that one step further, and it's going to deny those malicious system calls from reaching and exploiting the application, again, in conjunction with Falcon. And yeah, that pretty much ties up the demo portion, so I will pass it back over to you, Tanya. And you're on mute.
Okay, I'm back. Thank you. We really appreciated being able to show you that. And just to recap, again, we're very excited. This powerful combination of CrowdStrike on the detection side, feeding all the information over to Vicarius, and then for Vicarius to step in and help with the remediation for a full cycle vulnerability management. Again, that is, cutting edge. Just a recap of these elements, we do have the largest library that is out there for applications, and then covering all OSs, Linux, Mac, or Windows. We have multiple forms of remediation that Ryan so eloquently described for you all and demoed for you all, from the patching and scripting, and then also the patchless protection. So when you can't just, patching is not enough, which I know we've said many times on this call, but when it isn't enough, what do you do? And what can you do in its place? But then all this comes together in the fact that, again, like Ryan shared, you can do it in an automated way. So this can reduce up to 80% of the workload. You can set up these automations. They can always run, and then you can do it on a weekly basis or whatever it might be, as he had demonstrated. So very, very powerful combination here in collaboration with CrowdStrike. You can find us on the marketplace. I think someone was going to put a link in the chat for everybody to see. Thank you so much. So there we are on the marketplace. Go and give a look. You can click. I think there is like a buy it section. Really, a buy it means give me a call. I want to know more. So if you'd like to see a more in-depth demo, if you want to have a deeper conversation about this and how we can help, we are more than happy to engage and get on that call with you and talk further. So once again, thank you, and thanks Melody, thanks Ryan for today, and thank you everybody for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks everybody.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks.